What's up, guys? Today we're talking about my favorite beers in this moment. It's a liqueur. Yeah, it's 20%. Should I say that? For me, to choose my favorite beer really is just a beverage that I feel proud of and I feel expresses ourselves as craftspeople as well as we possibly can. I want to drink something that's refined, that I enjoy all the way through the glass and to the bottom, and then I want to have another of. All these beers that I've selected today, personally, I would call them perfect. The first beer that I have to talk to you guys about today is one that's near and dear to myself, and certainly to you guys as Treehouse fans. King Julius was originally brewed all the way back in 2012 at a time where a juicy double IPA was nascent, to say the least. A super hazy, even turbid IPA was but a twinkle in the eyes of many at that point. The reason I selected it as one of my favorite beers in this moment is because it currently contains our newest hop selections from last year. Myself and the team have spent a ton of time learning the way that hops rub in the field with how they translate into the finished beer. And with each successive year, I feel like we get better at that. The current King Julius running around is indicative of what we've learned, and it's brighter, juicier, more drinkable, more well-rounded. There's no hop burn. There's nothing at all off-putting about this beer. If you have a friend or a family member that says, I don't like IPA, get your hands on a current batch of King Julius, and I promise you it will change their mind. It's the beer that we always dreamed it could be, and it's tasting better than ever right now. Second beer that I wanted to bring up is Big Bear. Big Bear is an Imperial Brown Ale. It's a version of Bear that we've been making for quite a while now. The recipe is scaled up. It's slightly amended to be a little bit more chocolate forward and a little bit more stoutish, I think, than ordinary Bear. For me, scaling a beer like this and having it turn out as well as it did fills us with joy. One of the amazing benefits that we have here at Treehouse is we have the coffee program and the coffee roastery. So anytime we make a beer with coffee, we collaborate internally with the coffee team. And for this batch specifically, we were able to work with them on a blend and on a cold brew extraction that was going to be rich and full-bodied, and it would enable this beer to really shine. Needless to say, when this beer finally came out and we finally tasted it out of the bright tank as the fruit of all that collaboration and labor, I was like, oh my God, it worked out. It worked out the way that I knew it could work out. I'm not sure how often we'll make it. Frankly, this is a pretty tough beer to make on this scale, and half of the batch we actually put into bourbon barrels for projects down the road. And what's left of the coffee variant is pretty limited right now, so if you're a fan of brown ale, if you're a fan of coffee, if you're a fan of our beer, this beer in particular is one you're gonna wanna get your hands on. Ace in the Hole. Pre-Prohibition Porter. Without getting too deep into the style guidelines and history of what a pre-Prohibition porter is, essentially porters came in vogue in America around the time of the Revolutionary War. So any porter that was brewed before Prohibition and all the way back to the Revolutionary War is something that can be called pre-Prohibition porter. The style guidelines are all over the place. You can begin a pre-Prohibition porter with 2-row barley. You can begin it with 6-row barley. You can use adjuncts. You can not use adjuncts. You know, you can either have dark candy syrup or molasses or porterine, or any number of ingredients can go into your pre-prohibition. You can use lager yeast. You can use ale yeast. You can ferment warm. You can ferment cold. It's kind of a fun style to make because it's a bit of an open book as far as history is concerned. We chose to be pretty rustic about it. We utilize 6-row barley. We utilize flaked corn. We utilize cluster hops, which is a super classic American lager hop from way back at the turn of the century. We utilize our American light lager yeast to ferment this guy cool. And the beer that results is just beautiful. I mean, it's right in that drinking area that you want when you come in off the slopes, or if you were ice skating all day, or if you were playing pond hockey or ice fishing or something like that. It just has that really rich flavor. Dark chocolate, you know, wafer cookies. It's a bit bitter on the finish. It just tastes lovely, drinks really well. So This is one that I love personally, and credit goes to the team for collaboratively and collectively putting this recipe together. Nomadic. Nomadic is a version of our Czech dark lager that features green cardamom. It might sound like a crazy flavor pairing, but if you're a fan of chocolate or you happen to be a chocolatier, for example, you know that cardamom and dark chocolate, roasty characters go together really well. And for me, this is a beer that's way outside the box, but it speaks to what I spoke to at the beginning of this video, which is a well-made beer that when I drink it, it makes me happy. So for me, Nomadic is the perfect marriage of things. The green cardamom character kind of throws a bit of an earthy, clovey, citrusy thing that just kind of sits on top of the beautiful velvety Nomad base beer. And for me, Nomad's probably on my Treehouse top 5. And this rendition is just so fun in the moment, and it's so authentically crafted and thoughtful that I can't help but not mention it here because it just tastes great when you drink it. And if you like these ingredients, you're gonna love this beer. Stately Earl Gray. Where do I even begin on this guy? It's artfully crafted from start to finish. It features our mixed fermentation base, obviously in a much lighter beer. What is our mixed fermentation base? Well, we use 2-row barley, wheat, triticale, and spelt, and then it's fermented with our mixed culture, which produces a little bit of acid-forming bacteria, but not too much. And so the pH is relatively low, but it's not going to strip your enamel off. It kind of begins life as a dry, mildly tart, mildly funky, crushable table beer. And then from there, we add whole leaf tea to the conditioning tank in judicious quantities to give it just that nice citrusy, mild, Earl Grey, leafy kind of character. And then from there, we can condition it. So what does that mean? We add sugar and priming yeast to this can directly. We let it sit warm for several weeks. That sugar re-ferments in the can, creates CO2, and because the can is a sealed vessel, it produces absolutely no oxygen residual in the can, which is good for the longevity of this beer, and it carbonates it very, very finely. And to me, this is a beautiful example of balance, elegance, drinkability, thoughtfulness from start to finish. A beer like this is great on a hot day. It goes down easy. It's great with food, white fish, light dishes. You can't go wrong with this guy. So Stately series featuring Earl Grey, table beer, can conditioned. Absolutely love it. Double baked barley wine. Man, our guy Dan in the barrel program here at Treehouse is lighting it up right now. Even the design of this thing, the green wax, this beautiful label, right down to the thoughtfulness of the construct of this beer, make it one of my favorite beers of the year so far. It's amazingly inventive from start to finish, and it contains several threads. So let me see if I can describe them to you accurately. I just got to reference this really quick. Buffalo Trace and Wild Turkey, yeah. This beer begins life as our standard house barley wine, which we call Tree of Life. And there's one thread that comes from a Wild Turkey barrel that was aged for 15 months, and another thread that comes from a Buffalo Trace barrel. So you have 2 barrels of beautiful barley wine and 2 separate bourbon barrels. From there, those barrels get racked into freshly emptied apple brandy barrels. So bourbon barrel aged, then apple brandy barrel aged. That's your first thread. The second thread is that house barley wine aged in rum barrels for 15 to 18 months. So that's your second thread. And then your third thread is actually a small thread of Weizenbock that was fermented and conditioned in orange bitters barrels. So you take those 3 amazing components and you add them up and you get this amazing barley wine that has so much complexity that you don't even know where to begin when you get it into your glass. I mean, it's a barley wine that tastes like bourbon, Tootsie Rolls, chocolate-covered fruit, tropical fruit, spicy rum. Double Baked is one of my favorite beers from the barrel program to date, and it's a beer that I've actually stocked away a fair amount of in the event that it doesn't come around again. I don't ever want to not have the opportunity to experience a beer like this. So Double Baked, it's delightful. Treehouse beers, what would it be without including stuff that's not your top Treehouse beers. First thing I want to share with you guys, just because I'm like blown away by how good this tastes. It's called Bittersweet. It's a cold brew by the team here at Treehouse Coffee Roastery. Basically, it starts as our yearly Valentine blend called Sweetheart. Sweetheart is a beautiful coffee blend that features notes of kind of chocolate and red wine, Cabernet Sauvignon. We take that cold brew concentrate as a really rich, unwatered down cold brew concentrate, and we put it into a chocolate bitters barrel, and then we add beautiful Ecuadorian cacao nibs, and we let that condition until all those flavors are super saturated, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Once that process is complete, the coffee is then blended back with water to drinking strength. The product is nitrogenized, and then it's put into these beautiful cans that were designed by the team at Treehouse Design. All around, this is an artful, thoughtful product from start to finish, and most of all, it tastes great. It's super easy to drink. It's enjoyable all the way through the can. So the last thing I want to talk about is our second bonus product of the moment. If you don't know our distillery, we can introduce you to it. There's probably a video that we can link below. Cola is our coffee liqueur. A lot of complexity to our coffee liqueur. If you haven't already found out, a lot of these products I have a deep affinity toward, knowing and understanding how much labor, love, and care goes into making each of them from start to finish. So Cola begins life as a stout whiskey on the brewing side. A stout whiskey is essentially a stout that we brew on the brewing house side without hops. And from there, it makes its way into the distillery, where it's distilled to become a clear spirit that tastes like chocolate wafers. From there, we collaborate with the coffee department, and we add our own custom blend of cold brew concentrate. So stout whiskey, cold brew concentrate, and then from there, we add a little bit of sweetness in the form of essentially simple syrup, and then we make our coffee liqueur. Cola Banana is the first, or actually, technically it's the second variant of cola that we've released, and it's one of my favorites. Coffee liqueur is a beautiful sipping spirit. This guy contains all those things that I described previously, but it adds in vanilla bean and fresh bananas. And it tastes like a chocolate covered banana. You pour it into a little cordial glass, you kick your feet up by the fire, and you just sip this guy, and it makes you be happy to be alive. You know, we like that they're in these little accessible bottles. If you're unsure if you're gonna like it, you can try a small bottle, which I like personally, because variety is the spice of life, and by the time this video comes out, we'll have 4 of these different variants available. I happen to find the banana one to be the most tasty. So again, the theme of this video is artfully crafted from start to finish, thoughtfully crafted beverages that surprise and delight you with the way that they taste, and also hopefully surprise and delight you with the way that they were created. All right, guys, so we're gonna wrap this video up. Hopefully you enjoyed that one. I have to be honest, for me, I'm feeling a little bit naked without my big microphone and a lot of noise in the background. It's just kind of me and the camera and my buddy Michael over here, but hopefully you enjoyed what you saw. Try to tell it like it is. We put a lot of heart and soul into these products, and I like talking about them, so hopefully you enjoy this type of video. If there's something that you'd like to see me talk to camera about in the future, I would invite you to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Be well, be good to each other, and we'll see you in the next one.